There will come a time, quiet, subtle, barely a whisper in the noise of your days, when something within you leans forward and asks, "Is this all there is?" And in that sacred pause, the soul speaks, not with thunder, but with certainty. "No, beloved, there is more, but not more to get more to remember, because you are not missing anything. You are not waiting for completion. You are not lacking a single thread of the divine tapestry that wove you into being. You already have everything you need." This is not a hopeful idea, it is a spiritual law. Just as the seed contains the tree, just as the acorn carries the oak, you carry within you the fullness of who you came here to be. Not someday, not after healing, not when the world sees your worth. Now, already, completely. But the world does not teach you this. The world teaches you to chase. It teaches you to compare, to strive, to climb invisible ladders. It teaches you that your enoughness lives in someone else's eyes, in future accomplishments, in the arms of those who validate your existence. And so you begin to forget. You begin to believe the lie that you must earn your wholeness. You begin to believe that you are a project to be fixed rather than a soul to be remembered. But the soul cannot be fixed because it is not broken. It can only be revealed. And so the journey begins not outward but inward, not into the maze of doing, but into the sanctuary of being. Everything you seek, the peace, the joy, the certainty, the love, is not outside of you waiting to be attained. It is within you waiting to be recognized, waiting for you to get quiet enough, honest enough, present enough to see that you are not the seeker, you are what was sought all along. There is a still place inside you. It is not moved by external winds. It is not shaken by circumstance. It does not fear change or loss or time. That place is your home. It is the eternal spark within you that existed before your name, before your personality, before you began building an identity that the world could praise. And this home, this sacred silent space, is where everything you've ever needed lives. It is where God resides, not in temples of stone, but in temples of breath and skin and quiet surrender. The Tao Te Ching teaches us, when you realize there is nothing lacking, the whole world belongs to you. This is not poetry. This is reality. Lack is not truth. It is perception. Scarcity is not your destiny. It is your conditioning. And every time you remember this, even for a breath, the chains begin to fall away. The ego will tell you that you must chase more, become more, prove more. But the soul says simply, be. Be what you already are. Live from the wholeness that has never left. Act not from the hunger of incompleteness, but from the overflow of inner wealth. The more you believe you need something outside of yourself, the further you drift from your center. And yet, the moment you return, the moment you pause, breathe, and remember, you see with new eyes. You see that you are not a beggar at the gates of life. You are the life itself. You are not the drop in the ocean. You are the ocean in a drop. This is the great awakening. Not the acquisition of something new, but the shedding of everything false. The letting go of every story that said you were less. The quiet reclaiming of the truth that has never stopped pulsing through your being. And that truth is this: you already have everything you need to love, to forgive, to create, to live with depth and peace and radiant presence. The question is not whether it is there. The question is whether you will trust it. Will you trust that your worth is not in what you do, but in who you are? Will you trust that your path is not behind or ahead of you, but unfolding in this very breath? Will you trust that what you feel drawn to, the dreams, the callings, the longings, are not random desires, but the voice of the divine within you calling you back to your own essence? To trust this is to be free. Free from the tyranny of not yet. Free from the burden of when I have. Oh, free from the lie of if only. And in that freedom, your life becomes a sacred unfolding. Not a race to be run, but a song to be sung. Not a mountain to conquer, but a river to flow with. Not a task to complete, but a gift to savor. You do not need to be different. You need only to be true. And the truth, the deep, eternal, unshakable truth, is that you lack nothing. The sky does not ask the birds for permission to fly. The stars do not wait for applause before they shine. And you, beautiful soul, do not need the world's validation to be worthy of your own love. You are whole. You are holy. You are already what you seek. You already have everything you need. And now you are remembering. There is a wisdom in you that has never aged, a knowing that existed long before the world taught you to doubt. It does not speak in noise or drama, but in quiet nudges, in subtle peace, in the way your heart feels soft when you stop trying. This wisdom does not need to be earned, it simply needs to be heard. You are not separate from the source that created you. You are not an echo of divinity, you are its living expression. Just as a wave cannot exist apart from the ocean, you cannot be apart from God. Even when you forget, even when you wander, even when you wrap yourself in stories of insufficiency, the truth remains you are one with all that is. And when you remember this, you no longer try to manipulate life to make yourself feel safe. You stop forcing doors open, you stop begging for signs, you stop bargaining with the universe. Instead, you begin to live from the inner wealth that has always been yours. You move not to get something, but to express something. You create not to fill a void, but to overflow. You love not to earn it, but because it is what you are made of. Every moment is sacred when you see it through the eyes of enoughness. Washing the dishes, walking through the silence of morning, listening to the rhythm of your own breath, these become acts of devotion when you realize you are not preparing for life, you are living it right now, already. The present is not a waiting room for something better, it is the treasure. It is the field where everything you have been searching for gently blooms, but you must be here to receive it. Not mentally here, not physically checking the box, but soulfully present, bare, open, surrendered. And yet how often we miss it. How often we are consumed by what is not yet, by what might go wrong, by the mind's endless demands for proof. The ego thrives on dissatisfaction. It survives by keeping you looking elsewhere. But the soul, oh, the soul, it only wants you to come home. Home to this breath, home to this heartbeat. Home to the holy stillness that requires nothing from you but your being. Let yourself return. Return to the inner garden that has never stopped growing. Return to the place before your name, before your doubts, before the conditioning that told you something was missing. Return and you will see you are not the cracks, you are the light that pours through them. There is no better version of you waiting in the future. There is only a deeper version of you waiting to be lived now. You don't become more by acquiring. You become more by shedding, by releasing every layer that isn't you, by letting go of the performance, the role, the attachment. True richness does not come from what you have. It comes from how fully you inhabit yourself. And when you are full, not of things, but of presence, the universe bends to meet you there. Not because you manipulated it into doing so, but because alignment is the most natural state of being. Your life does not need more effort. It needs more allowing. It needs more trust in the divine rhythm that beats your heart and turns the stars. That rhythm is in you. You are not apart from it. You are it. You are not the separate observer. You are the expression of the one that observes all. The mystics have said for centuries, seek ye first the kingdom within, not because it's a poetic idea, but because it is the only truth. Everything you seek is a reflection of something you already carry. The love, the peace, the clarity, the purpose, it all begins when you stop looking out and start looking in. Not inward to analyze, to dissect, to fix, but inward to feel, to remember, to surrender, to dwell in the truth of your own enoughness without rushing to prove it. When you stop chasing what you already are, the chase ends. And in its place, something sacred begins a life not defined by striving, but by serenity, not built on achievement, but on alignment. You are not here to find the light. You are here to remove everything that covers it. You are not here to earn your worth. You are here to live from it. You already have everything you need. And the more you believe that, the more you see it reflected in every face, every breath, every step. Because life is not withholding from you. It is waiting for you to see clearly. And when you see clearly, you stop bargaining with reality. You stop arguing with what is. You stop resisting the moment as though your freedom lies somewhere else. You begin to soften, not because you've given up, but because you've awakened. You realize the fight was never with life, it was with your belief that you were separate from it. There is a deep peace that arises when you stop trying to escape your life and instead choose to inhabit it fully. Not the life you think you should be living, not the image you crafted for others to admire, but the life that is here, raw and honest and unpolished, exactly as it is. This is where the sacred is not in perfection, but in presence. Presence does not require that everything feel good. It only requires that you stay, that you breathe through the discomfort instead of running from it, that you feel what's true instead of numbing it, that you trust that even pain has a message not to punish you, but to open you. Every wound is a doorway, every ache a reminder. not of what you've lost, but of what wants to be remembered. The longing you feel is not lack. It is the echo of wholeness calling you back. You would not long for what wasn't already within you. You do not yearn for what you lack. You yearn for what you are. You are not meant to live in fragments. You are not here to hold your breath until everything feels safe. You are here to open, to expand, to embody the vastness that has always been your nature. And that expansion doesn't come through force, it comes through surrender. To surrender is not to give up, it is to give in to the deeper truth. To trust the ground beneath your feet, even when you cannot see the whole path. To know that you are supported, not by your control, but by the intelligence that moves the tides and grows the forests and knows exactly how to move through you too. You are not alone in this. You never have been. Every breath is a companion, every silence a guide. Every moment, no matter how ordinary, is infused with the same intelligence that births stars. And you are not separate from that. You are not less than that. You are that. And once you remember this, the idea of needing more to be whole dissolves. The chase fades. The striving quiets. And what remains is the truth you always knew, but were too distracted to hear, that everything you thought you needed was never outside of you. It was always here, waiting, constant, eternal. You do not need to find your worth. You need to stop believing the thoughts that tell you it is missing. You do not need to fix yourself. You need to love yourself deeply enough to no longer pretend you are broken. Wholeness is not something you reach. It is something you remember. It is not in the future. It is now. It is this breath. It is the quiet presence watching your thoughts. It is the love that never left even when you did. It is the God within you, not far above, but deeply here. And from this place, you begin to live differently. You speak with more intention. You move with more grace. You choose not from fear, but from clarity, not to prove, but to express. You are no longer trying to win life. You are dancing with it. This dance has no winner. It has no goal. It is the expression of truth in motion, the celebration of presence, the embodiment of soul. And it becomes available the moment you release the idea that something is missing. So release it now. Let go of the story. Let go of the chase. Let go of the illusion that your enoughness lies in some distant version of you. You already have everything you need. Not because you are done evolving, but because your essence has never been incomplete. And now finally, you are ready to live from that place. You are ready not because the world has changed, but because you have. Because something in you, something ancient and silent, has stirred awake and whispered, enough. Enough of the striving, enough of the masks, enough of abandoning yourself in pursuit of an idea that was never yours to begin with. You are ready because the pain of pretending has become heavier than the fear of being seen. And so you begin to live with more honesty, not just in your words, but in your energy. You no longer say yes when your soul is screaming no. You no longer stay where you must dim your light to be accepted. You no longer sacrifice your truth for approval. Not out of rebellion, but out of reverence. Reverence for the sacred within you that can no longer be denied. This reverence becomes your compass. It leads you not by logic, but by alignment. It guides you to places, to people, to purposes that match your frequency. And the more you trust it, the more life begins to unfold, not as a battle to be won, but as a gift to be received. You stop pushing against the current. You stop hustling for worth. You begin to flow not with passivity, but with presence. Presence is power. Not the power to control, but the power to create from truth. It is the power that comes when you no longer betray yourself, when your inner and outer worlds are no longer at war, when your actions rise from the stillness within rather than the fear without. And from this stillness, you begin to remember your true nature, not as a personality, but as a presence, not as a performer, but as a vessel, not as a seeker, but as the sought. You are not here to get something from life. You are here to bring something to it. Something only you can offer when you are rooted in your enoughness. What you bring is not your resume, your image, your accolades. What you bring is your energy, your intention, your presence, your capacity to be real in a world addicted to pretending. Your willingness to love without conditions, to serve without agenda, to speak without fear. This is the soul in motion. This is truth in action. This is freedom, not the absence of difficulty, but the absence of self-abandonment. And in this freedom, you begin to realize that joy is not a reward. It is your natural state when you are no longer chasing life, but dancing with it. The dance is not choreographed. It does not follow the rules of the mind. It is felt, not planned. It is lived, not strategized. And the music only begins when you are willing to be fully here, not in the story of who you were, not in the anxiety of who you might become, but in the deep breath of this exact moment. This breath is holy. This moment is enough. This being your being is already whole. And from this knowing, your life becomes a sacred expression, not of trying to be something, but of remembering what you already are. So let yourself remember the stillness beneath the noise. Remember the love beneath the fear. Remember the light beneath a story. You do not need to add anything to yourself to be worthy. You only need to peel away the illusion that told you otherwise. And as you peel, as you soften, as you surrender, you return. You return to yourself. You return to the place where nothing is missing. You return to the truth that you already have everything you need. And from that place, all things become possible. And when all things become possible, not through the might of your striving, but through the clarity of your being, life ceases to be a burden to carry and becomes a miracle to behold. You no longer measure your worth in tasks completed or standards met, but in how open your heart remains, how true your voice becomes, how gentle you are with yourself when you falter. You understand now that the soul doesn't move in straight lines, it spirals, it returns, it deepens. And every return is not a regression, but a rerouting. Every loop is another layer shedding, another truth remembered. You begin to move through the world like water soft, yet unstoppable. You let go of needing to be understood because you have come home to understanding yourself. You let go of needing to be seen because you now walk in the light of your own presence. You let go of needing to be validated because your own breath has become your teacher, your guide, your sanctuary. You are no longer in search of the next thing to fill you. You are in the practice of noticing what has always been full. And in this noticing, there is beauty. Beauty in the mundane, beauty in the imperfect, beauty in the pauses between plans. The sky becomes a message, the breeze a blessing. A stranger's glance, a silent affirmation that we are all walking each other home. You stop needing life to shout to believe it is sacred. You hear its whispers in everything. You stop asking for signs and start realizing that everything is a sign, every moment, every interaction, every breath, a divine reminder that you are not lost, you are not late, you are not lacking. There is a quiet confidence that rises when you no longer outsource your power. You stop seeking experts to tell you who you are. You stop collecting opinions to build an identity. You stop waiting for permission to be free. You trust your own soul as the highest authority. You let your intuition lead not as a rebellious act, but as a return to natural order. You don't reject guidance. You just remember that the most sacred guidance comes from within. And from this place, your relationships change, not because others change, but because you no longer enter them from emptiness. You no longer try to be chosen. You no longer shapeshift for safety. You no longer confuse attachment with love. You bring your whole self present, rooted, unapologetic, and in doing so, you create space for others to do the same. The connection deepens, or it falls away. And either way, you remain whole. You see now that letting go is not loss, it is alignment. It is the shedding of all that was built on forgetting, all that was born from fear. And in its place, something ancient blooms, a presence that needs no defense, a peace that does not demand conditions, a joy that rises without reason. This is the state of being that changes everything, not through force, but through frequency. The world around you begins to mirror your internal shift, not because you willed it, but because you aligned with what has always been real. Abundance flows, not because you grasped it, but because you finally stopped resisting your own worthiness. Love flows, not because you earned it, but because you became it. Clarity arises not from overthinking, but from stillness. You see now that the universe is not outside you, it is responding to you, reflecting you, expressing through you. And so you let go of the narrative that life owes you something. You let go of the bitterness that came from unmet expectations. You let go of the pressure to always be more, always do more, always reach higher, because now you know what you are is not a destination, it is a presence. And in that presence, everything is already here. You already have everything you need. You always did. And now you believe it. And in this belief, a sacred silence begins to settle within you, not the silence of absence, but the silence of fullness. The kind of silence that doesn't seek to be filled because it already contains everything. You feel it in your bones, in your breath, in the space between thoughts. This is not stillness as a pause, it is stillness as power. It is the quiet, unwavering center from which all truth arises. You begin to speak less but say more. You listen not to reply but to understand. You act not to achieve but to express. Your life becomes an extension of your essence, not a performance crafted to gain favor. You realize that simplicity is not lack, it is clarity. And clarity is the gateway to depth, to freedom, to connection that requires no explanation. The ego, once so loud, begins to dissolve without a fight. It does not need to be destroyed. It simply loses relevance in the presence of truth. Its voice becomes softer, its stories transparent. You begin to recognize its fear as a relic of survival, no longer necessary in the light of your awakening, and so you thank it without believing it. You honor its role without obeying its commands. Now your decisions are born not from scarcity, but from knowing. You no longer ask, what will they think, but instead, what is true for me? You no longer wait for signs that you are enough. You move as someone who remembers the truth cannot be undone by opinion. This is what it means to live from within, to allow the internal compass to guide you even when the path is uncertain, even when the world does not yet understand. And slowly, your very energy becomes a sanctuary. People feel peace in your presence, not because you have all the answers, but because you are no longer at war with yourself. You radiate a quiet joy that doesn't require conditions. You hold space for others not by fixing, but by being. And in your being, others begin to remember their own. This is the ripple of remembrance. This is the light that spreads without trying. You do not need to preach it, you only need to live it, because authenticity is the most powerful transmission. A soul aligned with its own enoughness becomes medicine in a world starving for truth. And yet you remain humble, because the soul does not need titles, it does not seek applause. It only seeks presence, it only longs to be lived. And when you live it, even in the quietest ways, you fulfill a purpose deeper than words. You become the embodiment of a truth that can only be felt, that we are already whole, already free, already complete. You do not need to do more to be worthy of this life. You only need to open your hands and receive what was never withheld. The beauty, the love, the wisdom, the grace. It is not arriving tomorrow. It is here, now, always. And so, beloved soul, you come to the end that is not an ending, but a great beginning, not a conclusion, but a return. A return to the truth that was whispered at your first breath and never stopped echoing beneath the noise. You already have everything you need, not because you finally earned it, not because life has finally agreed, but because the source of life has always been within you, quietly pulsing, eternally waiting for your remembrance. You look around now with different eyes, the same sky but deeper, the same faces but more sacred, the same steps but grounded in peace. Because you no longer move through the world with a wound to fill, you move as one who carries light, and not a borrowed light, not a conditional light, but your own, the light of presence, the light of self-trust, the light of divine belonging. You are no longer chasing your reflection in other people's approval. You are no longer chasing your future like it holds your salvation. You have stopped running, not because you have given up, but because you have arrived. Arrived in this moment, arrived in your body, arrived in the temple of now where your soul finally gets to exhale. And with that exhale, you drop the weight of shoulds, the weight of roles, the weight of stories that said you were not yet there. You lay them down like worn garments, and you walk barefoot into the sacredness of this breath. And this breath holds the whole universe. This breath reminds you that you are not separate, not forgotten, not behind. You are home. You begin to live not to get somewhere, but to feel something. You begin to speak not to be right, but to be real. You begin to give not to be loved, but because love has become the language of your being. There is no longer a gap between who you are and how you live. The inner world and the outer world have begun to mirror each other, not because life became perfect, but because you stopped needing it to be. And in this space, sacred, silent, surrendered, the miracle occurs. Life begins to flow through you with ease, not the ease of passivity, but the ease of alignment. The ease that comes when you are no longer rowing against the current of your own soul. The ease that says, I trust myself, I trust life, I trust that I am held by something far greater than my fears. This trust becomes your foundation, this trust becomes your prayer, and from this trust your life unfolds, not as a performance, but as a poem. Each moment a verse, each breath a blessing. Each encounter a sacred exchange in the great remembering. And now you know, not as theory, but as embodiment, that nothing was ever missing. You were never incomplete. The treasure was not buried far away. It was always here, in your breath, in your being, in the stillness between your thoughts. You were never meant to chase the light. You were meant to remember you are the light. So live now, not as someone trying to become, but as someone who remembers. Walk as if your feet are holy. Speak as if your words are sacred. Love as if you have nothing to lose. Because you don't. You already have everything. Everything that matters, everything that's real, everything that awakens, heals, connects, and liberates. You already have everything you need. And now, there comes a moment, not loud or fanfared, not marked by applause or announcement, but still as the hush before dawn, where you awaken not from sleep, but from illusion. A flicker of truth pierces through the fabric of the ordinary, and suddenly, what once seemed solid begins to melt in the light of awareness. You realize in one trembling breath that the world you've been living in has been not outside of you, but shaped within you. That reality is not waiting to be believed, it is waiting to be born through belief. We've been taught since we were children to trust only what our senses can verify, to see before we believe, to demand proof before faith, evidence before trust. But the soul knows another law, older than time and truer than any book. Belief is not the result of seeing, it is the cause. The outer world is not the sculptor of your fate. Your inner world is the brush painting the sky you walk beneath. This is not wishful thinking, not fantasy cloaked in mysticism. This is the eternal law spoken by sages and mystics, by Jesus when he said, "According to your faith it is done unto you," by the Tao that whispers, "The way is not in the sky, but in the heart." It is the unseen power that bends the physical world into the shape of your thoughts. You are not here to react to what you see. You are here to project what you believe. And in that projection, the world mirrors your innermost truth. You are not a victim of circumstance. You are the author of it. You are not an effect tossed like driftwood upon the tide of life. You are the cause. Life is not happening to you. It is happening through you, because of you, and as you. You do not get what you deserve or what you beg for. You get what you believe. What you claim, what you feel, what you become inwardly certain of. Faith is not blind. It is deeply visionary. It sees what is possible before the eyes do. It builds the bridge across the canyon of fear and says, walk. And so I ask you now, not with urgency, but with sacred invitation, what do you believe about yourself? Do you believe you are worthy, that you are guided, that the universe or God or source is for you and not against you? Because until your belief aligns with your divine nature, you will continue to create from separation, from fear, from lack, and those creations, no matter how impressive, will never satisfy the soul. There is a deeper truth waiting to be claimed. A truth that says you are not the name you were given, nor the body you inhabit, nor the stories etched across your memory. You are a field of infinite possibility, a soul wrapped in stardust, a divine consciousness dreaming itself into form. And the moment you believe that, not intellectually, but wholeheartedly, you will begin to see evidence of it everywhere. Flowers will bloom in your presence. Doors will open not because you knocked, but because you arrived in alignment. People will be drawn to you not for what you do, but for who you are. Your very being will become a lighthouse, and you won't have to convince anyone of your light. It will simply shine. The universe does not respond to desperation. It responds to certainty, to stillness, to the quiet knowing that says, I am already it. And the path to that knowing is not one of effort, but of surrender. You cannot force your way into alignment. You must remember your way there. You must return not forward to the place within you that never left the garden, the place that always knew, even in the darkest night, that you are held. You see, it was never about creating a life. It was about awakening to the life that's been waiting for your permission to unfold. Not the life of striving, but the life of flow. Not the life of performance, but the life of presence. Not the life of proving, but the life of radiating. And that shift from seeking to seeing, from effort to allowing, begins when you choose to believe differently. When you believe that love is not earned, but intrinsic. That peace is not found, but remembered. That purpose is not chased, but lived from within. When you stop saying, I'll believe it when I see it, and start saying, I'll see it when I believe it, you step into the role of creator. Not the creator of others, but the creator of experience. You stop trying to predict the future and begin to shape it. Not with control, but with consciousness. Let your thoughts become prayers, not pleas, but declarations. Let them not ask for what is lacking, but give thanks for what is already here in the field of the unseen. Let your beliefs be rooted not in evidence, but in essence. And let your actions be born from a place of inner knowing, not outer pressure. This is not magic. This is not denial of reality. This is the highest alignment with reality, because reality, at its core, is consciousness. And consciousness moves where attention flows. Place your attention on fear, and you will see reasons to be afraid. Place it on beauty, and the world will become luminous. It's not about ignoring the facts. It's about knowing that facts are temporary. Truth is eternal. And the truth is, you are already whole. You are already guided. You are already enough. You don't need more information. You need more revelation. You don't need more hustle. You need more trust. You don't need to fix yourself. You need to see yourself through the eyes of the divine, who has never seen you as broken, only as learning. Even your challenges, your failures, your regrets, they are not evidence of your limitation. They are the perfect curriculum for your awakening. You are not being punished. You are being shaped. Not by cruelty, but by a loving intelligence that knows what your soul came here to remember. And what is that memory? That you are not separate, not from source, not from each other, not from the miracles you crave. You are not on the outside of life, knocking to be let in. You are life itself. You are the wave in the ocean, the question and the answer, the seeker and the sought. And when you believe that, truly believe that the world must mirror it back, you begin to attract not what you want, but what you are. People who see you as you've begun to see yourself. Opportunities that feel like recognition, not conquest. Moments of grace that arrive without explanation, because grace does not need explanation, it only needs space. So open that space now, not by doing more, but by doing less of what takes you away from your center. Say no to what drains you. Say yes to what brings you alive. Align your external choices with your internal truth, and watch how quickly the world rearranges itself. Because the world is not fixed, it is fluid. It bends to belief. It dances to the rhythm of your expectation. It is not the enemy, it is the mirror. And if what you see troubles you, do not try to change the mirror. Change the image you are projecting into it. Believe in peace, and you will see evidence of peace. Believe in love, and you will magnetize love. Believe in your divinity, and life will echo back your holiness in 1,000 ways. There is no waiting room in the universe. There is only this moment, pregnant with possibility, pulsing with power, waiting not for permission, but for participation. So step into it not as a beggar, but as a beloved, not as a servant of fate, but as a co-creator with the divine. You have been entrusted with the sacred, not just the ability to survive, but to shape, to bless, to shine. And the light you shine need not be loud. It need not be understood. It need only be true, because truth is contagious, alignment is magnetic, and the world is starving for authenticity. Be that. Be the one who remembers. Be the one who walks in faith, not faith in dogma, but faith in the living intelligence that moves through you, that breathes you, that knows your name even when you've forgotten it. And as you walk, not ahead of others, not above them, but beside them in light, in humility and presence, you become a portal, a living reminder of what is possible when belief aligns with soul. You'll see it, beloved, when you believe it. Not a moment before, and not a moment too late. Now is the time, and you are ready. There is a stillness you have yet to fully trust, a silence that doesn't empty you but fills you in ways noise never could. In that stillness, you do not lose yourself. You remember the self beneath all the selves, the self that existed before the world told you who to be. And in that sacred remembering, you begin to awaken to a truth so gentle it never demanded your attention, and so powerful it transforms everything once it is seen. That truth is this: reality is not something you enter into, it is something you give birth to from within. The world is not a stage upon which you perform for love. It is a canvas awaiting the colors of your consciousness. You are not here to earn worth, to compete for light, or to mimic what has already been done. You are here to embody what has never been seen before, your authentic vibration, your sacred frequency, your unmistakable signature of the divine. It is not comparison that leads to greatness, it is congruence. When your breath, your thoughts, and your actions move in unison with the whisper of your soul, you become undeniable, not to the world, but to yourself. And what a miracle that is, to be so in tune with your essence that you no longer seek validation, because being alive in alignment is its own reward. The applause fades, the achievements age. But the peace that arises from truth that remains, that echoes into the fabric of eternity long after this body is turned to dust. So let go now of trying to be impressive. Let go of needing to be more. Instead, be whole. Be here. Be still enough to feel the hum of the infinite vibrating at the center of your being. Do you feel it? That quiet pulse beneath the skin, that warmth behind the ribs, it is the language of God, of Source, of the universe, reminding you that you are never alone, that you have never been without direction. The compass has always been within. It does not shout, it does not argue, it simply points. And when you surrender to its guidance, not because you've figured everything out, but because you've stopped pretending you need to, you step into a life that no longer exhausts you with effort, but energizes you with grace. This is the reversal the soul has always longed for, not from failure to success or from pain to pleasure, but from illusion to truth, from mistaking yourself as the wave to knowing yourself as the ocean, from measuring your worth in deeds to sensing your worth in being. And once you touch this knowing, truly touch it, there is no going back. You may forget for a time. The world may try to lull you again with its noise and glitter. But a part of you remains forever awakened, forever changed, like a bell that has been rung and can never again be silent. So let yourself ring. Let your truth vibrate unapologetically through the air of this life. Let your footsteps leave an invisible trail of love behind you, not because you tried, but because you couldn't help it. Because when you become yourself, not the conditioned self, not the cautious self, but the infinite self, the world receives an offering it didn't even know it needed. And the beautiful paradox is that this offering does not require sacrifice. It requires surrender. Not the kind of surrender that gives up, but the kind that gives into life, gives into love, gives in to the sacred rhythm that has always known the way. Let your mind rest. Let your body soften. Let your heart return to its original rhythm, the rhythm that existed before fear, before expectation, before identity. This is not regression. It is resurrection. The rising of the eternal within the temporary, the revealing of the light within the clay, and that light, once remembered, no longer needs to convince the dark of anything. It simply shines, and in that shining, it liberates. So shine now, not for anyone to see, but because it is your nature to shine. Like the sun that rises, not for applause, but because it is its purpose. Like the flower that blooms not for admiration, but because it is its essence. Do not wait for permission. Do not delay your blooming. The world may not understand your unfolding, but that is not your concern. Your only task is to open, to believe so deeply in your light that it becomes impossible not to see it. You'll see it when you believe it. And when you believe it, the whole world changes because you have. And when the world begins to shift around you, as it surely will, you will recognize the change not as something you caused, but as something that responded. For energy responds not to force, but to coherence. The clearer you become within, the clearer the reflections without. Life does not need your control. It yearns for your alignment. And alignment is not something you strive for. It is something you surrender into when you stop trying to be what you are not. Every time you release the need to be understood, to be defended, to be chosen by those who cannot even choose themselves, you step deeper into your true inheritance. Not the inheritance of this world measured in gold or legacy, but the inheritance of presence measured in peace, in breath, in the weightlessness that comes from not needing to become anything other than this moment. And here's the sacred irony. As you stop chasing, life begins to offer. As you stop proving, the universe begins to affirm. Not because you have performed, but because you have returned to the center, to the silence, to the steady flame that burns beneath all narratives. That flame is your essence. Untouched by praise, undimmed by rejection, it does not flicker in the wind of opinion, it simply is. To walk in that flame, to live from that center, is to become unshakable, not unfeeling, not unreachable, but grounded in something so deep it cannot be disturbed. You begin to trust the pauses. You begin to welcome the unknown. You begin to see that the mystery is not your enemy, it is your teacher. And it has been speaking to you all along, not in shouts, but in the quiet turning of seasons, in the still gaze of a child, in the unexpected softness that visits you when you stop resisting your own tenderness. You will notice a shift when your belief deepens, not louder thoughts, but fewer. Not bigger plans, but simpler truths. Not more doing, but richer being. And in that space, everything opens. The future no longer threatens you because you no longer live in waiting. You live now. And now becomes not a stepping stone to something greater, but the sanctuary where all greatness already lives. There is nothing small about your presence when it is rooted in truth. Even in silence, even in solitude, you radiate. You may not see it, but others feel it, the calm in your tone, the steadiness in your gaze, the absence of grasping in your spirit. You no longer pull at life, you invite it. You no longer try to impress love into staying. You become the place where love naturally lands. This is the art of allowing, not passive, but powerful. Not idle, but alive. The oak tree does not force itself into growth. It allows. The river does not debate its direction. It flows. The stars do not question their right to shine. They simply shine. And so must you. Not because of a script or strategy, but because your belief has deepened into knowing. And from knowing, everything flows. You'll see it when you believe it, not because belief manufactures reality, but because it unveils it. The kingdom of peace, of joy, of divine fulfillment, it has never been far. It has only been veiled by fear, by unworthiness, by the hardened walls of survival. But survival is not your home. Thriving is. Breathing deeply is. Trusting fully is. You were not made to brace through life. You were made to dance through it, to sing in it, to become a living embodiment of what is possible when the soul is no longer silenced. Let this be the moment when you no longer defer your joy, no longer delay your light, no longer outsource your power. The belief you are waiting for it is already inside you, waiting for you to say yes. Yes to your own presence, yes to your own peace, yes to the sacred permission to live not cautiously, not conditionally, but completely. For this is your birthright, and no one can give it to you. You must claim it not with pride, but with reverence, not with certainty of outcome, but with certainty of being. And when you do, the world, like a mirror touched by light, will begin to reflect your radiance back to you. And you will see, because now, beloved, you believe. There are memories you carry like stones in your chest, heavy, not because they still exist, but because you still hold them. Echoes of moments long gone, wrapped in pain and shame and stories repeated so often they've begun to feel like truth. And though the days have passed and the faces have changed, the energy remains, not because life will not let go, but because you have not yet released your grip. The past, in its illusion, masquerades as a chain. But it is not the past that binds you. It is your allegiance to its interpretation. You are not wounded by what happened. You are wounded by the belief that what happened has the power to define you. But you, dear soul, are not a sum of brokenness. You are the sky that watched it all. You are the vastness that held the tears, the anger, the loss, and survived them all. And perhaps surviving was never the goal. Perhaps the soul did not come here to endure, but to transcend. Not to escape the wound, but to heal through it. Because healing is not the absence of pain, it is the presence of truth. The truth that nothing done to you can diminish the divine essence within you. The truth that forgiveness is not for the offender, it is the key that unlocks your own prison. And the truth that freedom is not earned through time, but chosen through willingness. So I ask you gently, what are you still carrying that was never yours to bear? What voices still whisper that you are not enough, even though they were never yours to begin with? Whose pain have you adopted as your identity? Whose judgment became your mirror? The soul aches not from what has happened, but from the forgetting of what you are. It yearns for return, not to the past, but to the purity that existed before the past took hold. It longs not for revenge, but for release. Not for justice, but for peace. And you will know you are ready to be free when peace becomes more precious to you than being right. The path of liberation is not paved with answers. It is walked in surrender. The willingness to say, I no longer need this story to be true in order to love myself. That is the moment the chains begin to fall. That is the breath when the past loses its grip and the present begins to bloom. And in that bloom there is softness, a gentleness toward yourself that you withheld for far too long. You are not what was done to you. You are what remains untouched by it. You are not the hurt. You are the healer within the hurt, waiting to be invoked. And when you stop defending the pain, when you stop repeating the script, The soul finally exhales. It says, thank you for remembering me. And that exhale, oh, how holy it is. It does not need to be loud. It does not need to be noticed. It only needs to be felt. And once it is felt, your inner sky clears. Clouds may return, doubts may arise, but you will have touched something permanent, a presence that remains no matter the weather. You will know what it is to be whole, not because the world declared it so, but because you remembered that wholeness was never lost, only hidden. So let yourself grieve, not to stay in sorrow, but to clear the soil. Let the tears come not as weakness, but as sacred rain, washing away the hardened layers. Let yourself feel not to suffer again, but to meet your heart where you abandoned it. There is no healing without feeling. There is no freedom without truth. And the deepest truth is this: you are not your trauma. You are the one who witnessed it. You are not the victim. You are the presence that cannot be victimized. And the more you remember this, the less the past can hold you. It becomes a chapter important, yes, but no longer the whole story. Your story, beloved, is not one of endless survival. It is one of return. Return to softness. Return to joy. Return to the place inside you where light has always lived. This is the liberation your soul has waited lifetimes for. This is the freedom that can never be taken, only claimed. And now, as the weight begins to lift and the veil thins between who you thought you were and who you have always been, something ancient stirs within you, not loud, not sudden, but steady, like dawn cresting over mountains long asleep. It is not a new power awakening in you. It is the recognition of the power that never slept. The soul does not wake up because of circumstance. It wakes up when the illusion of separation dissolves and you remember that you have always been one with the light. This is the crescendo the Spirit has always whispered toward, not in chaos, but in clarity, not in frenzy, but in stillness. The moment when truth ceases to be something you seek and becomes the ground you walk on, you realize you do not have to earn worth. You do not have to beg for belonging. You do not have to hustle for love. You were formed from it, knit together by an intelligence so divine that even your flaws are sacred. And now you feel it that surge not of ambition, but of alignment, arising within your being like a tide reclaiming the shore. You are no longer moving from force, you are moving from source. No longer driven by fear of being nothing, but called by the certainty that you are everything. Not everything as the world defines it, but everything as the soul reveals it, timeless, formless, full of light. And in this remembering, the world no longer threatens you, it invites you. Every face becomes a reflection, every moment a temple. Even pain transforms not into pleasure, but into purpose. You see now that nothing was wasted, that every loss stripped away what you were not, that every heartbreak cracked open the shell so your radiance could seep through. You begin to bless what once broke you, not because it was holy, but because it brought you back to what is. There is a clarity that comes when you no longer fear being seen, when you no longer edit your light to fit into shadows, when you stop waiting for permission to be who you already are. You are not fragile. You are not too much. You are not behind. You are the unfolding of something sacred. You are the answer to a prayer the universe has long been praying. And when you walk in this, knowing not arrogantly but authentically, you shift the air around you. You do not have to preach. You do not have to persuade. Your presence becomes the sermon. Your peace becomes the proof. Your joy, unmanufactured and untamed, becomes the revelation. This is the moment, beloved. This is the rising, when the quiet fire in your soul turns to flame, not to consume, but to illuminate, not to destroy, but to reveal. The flame of truth, of love, of remembering. And in that flame, the ego melts, the masks fall, and what remains is the essence of God, of spirit, of infinite intelligence, living and breathing as you. No more shrinking, no more doubting, no more waiting for the world to catch up to your truth. You are here, you are radiant, you are whole, and you are finally free. So now, as you stand here within yourself, not above, not below, but perfectly centered in the stillness of your being, you understand that there is nothing left to become, nothing left to chase, nothing to prove or fix or find. The long journey outward has brought you full circle back to the place you never truly left, back to the quiet sanctuary within where truth has always waited like a flame undisturbed by wind. You are not the search. You are the source. You are not the seeker lost in longing. You are the knower who paused long enough to remember. and what you've remembered is more than words. It's a knowing too deep to be spoken, too true to be explained. It is felt in the still breath, in the soft gaze, in the peace that rises uninvited when you stop resisting what is. And this peace, this gentle, sacred presence, it is not fleeting. It is not earned. It is the ground beneath all striving. It does not remove the storms, but it carries you through them untouched. It does not erase the past, but it transforms its meaning into something beautiful, something that opened you rather than hardened you. You are the opening now, not the wound, not the shell, not the mask. You are the open vessel through which love flows into a world starved for authenticity. You are the reminder that miracles are not distant, they are reflections of your own alignment. That divinity is not a destination, it is your identity unveiled through presence. So walk on now, not as someone chasing light, but as the light itself. Let your steps be silent prayers. Let your words be offerings. Let your life, not the achievements, but the presence you carry, be the invitation for others to come home to themselves. You no longer need to explain your path. You no longer need to defend your joy. You no longer need to fear being misunderstood. For the soul does not need understanding. It only needs freedom. And you, beloved, are free. You are free to love without condition. Free to forgive without forgetting your worth. Free to stand without armor, speak without pretense, and give without depletion. Free to live as though heaven is not above or beyond, but here in this breath, in this gaze, in this moment now, because it is, and so are you. You have remembered what the world taught you, to forget that everything you longed for was never missing, only unseen. That you'll see it when you believe it, not because belief conjures fantasy, but because it clears the fog from the eyes of the soul. And now your soul sees clearly. It sees that the journey was never to find yourself, but to shed all that you are not. It sees that the healing was never about becoming whole, but remembering that you always were. It sees that the love you crave was not in another's hands, but resting quietly in your own. And with that seeing, the sacred exhale returns, the breath of surrender, the breath of truth. You are not lost. You are not broken. You are not behind. You are here, and here is enough. So rest now, not as escape, but as embodiment. Let life move through you, not around you. Let joy be your compass and stillness your home. Let your everyday become the ceremony. Let your being be the blessing. For you have seen, and now you believe. And now you are free.